everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I'm joined once again by Enrico Alfonso. Freaking awesome, and we're here again in UIP. We just finished watching Blind Ambition, so we're going to break down the story for you right now. Ultimately, we follow 4 Zimbabweans down on their luck, but ultimately we get to see them turn their lives around, and that's what's so great about this movie. It's an underdog story. I felt a lot like it felt a lot like Cool Runnings.
Yes. Dude, that's such a throwback right now, man.
Just replace the bobsledding with wine tasting and it's Cool Runnings. But yeah, guys, we're going to break down
our age right there.
we're going to break down Blind Ambition for you right now. Cool. So how did you feel about it? Because we've spoken kind of before the review about my thoughts and feelings.
And I think our consensus together is that at the heart of it, this is such an amazing underdog story. And you've got to love an underdog story. And what we enjoyed so much was the journey that these characters have been on, that these real people have been on in their lives. And, literally going from nothing into something. And what I truly enjoyed, I think, is the potential of somebody. There's a line in the movie, and I'm sure you remember this. It's a pastor, a reverend who says this. And he talks about how people have this untapped potential that they can literally do anything. They have so much within them that they just need to discover it. They just need to come out of that shell and discover it. And I think that's the core message of this movie that I'd like everybody to take away from it.
Yeah. The movie, so it's a documentary as well. I feel like that is worth mentioning. Everything you see happens in real time. Everything you're watching, it's like it's at the end of the day, it's an edited entertainment platform, but it's a documentary. And so ultimately you can take as much of it away as you want in regards to how real you believe this documentary is, but it's filmed on location as everything is happening. So you can take it pretty much as face value, as a retelling of exactly what happened in those events, exactly how the characters were feeling. Because there were moments where like real emotion was brought to the forefront, especially with the interactions between the two teams, different coaches, Dennis and JV. But we'll talk about that later. But what really stood out to me about the show, and it's something that I feel like South Africans are experiencing quite a bit, and that's also like this feeling of dread and understanding that your country's heading in a specific way that you might not necessarily like. And if you look at these guys who came from Zimbabwe and watched their country fall, it's kind of a scary thought.
And the footage of that place as it is now is absolutely horrific. It's scary to think of where they came from.
But I think at the end of the day, what I realized as well is you spoke about potential, and that's true. Like the documentary touches on it quite a bit at the end. It's not the politicians that are going to save the country. It's us. It's the people. It's us coming together, unity, unifying one another and bringing each other up. So that's incredibly exciting. But I got a lot out of this documentary in regards to being patriotic, because I'm someone that feels incredibly fed up with the country and its current state of things. I mean, load shedding and freaking corruption and so taxes and petrol, and we can just make a whole long list. But there was this line that really stood out to me where I believe it was Joseph. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. Joseph was the team captain, but he says like, my country might be the worst, but I was born a Zimbabwean. I might reside in South Africa, but I'll die a Zimbabwean, and I am Zimbabwean. And I feel the same, I might not necessarily enjoy the way South Africa is going now, but I was born in South Africa. I live in South Africa. I'll probably die in South Africa. So you have to have that, you have to understand that's a large part of your identity, is where you come from. And you're going to have to do something about the state of your country if you're not happy about the state of your country. That hit me hard.
I think one of the most important parts in this movie is, again, and I'd love to talk about this, is where Joseph came from. He talks, and this is one of the most powerful moments in the movie, he talks about his journey, and he talks about how when he came here from Zimbabwe, he was just looking for a job. And he went to this one guy at a restaurant, and the guy didn't even have anything for him. He told him, you can work in the garden. Okay, and I don't want to give away anything in the documentary, but the point of the story is that he started off as a gardener, and we know so many people in our lives that just start off that way. But unfortunately, some of them stay that way. And in this case, it was just somebody that took a chance and just gave them something extra. I think it was a bottle of champagne, and that changed his whole life because He started asking questions. He started figuring out. And one of the things I find so surprising about this movie is that this is something.
Yeah.
I didn't even know sommelier was a thing.
Okay, at least I knew that.
Wine, no, I mean, I knew wine tasting was a thing, but I didn't know there was freaking the
World champions.
Olympics of it, and it becomes a thing. So it's not even they're drinking it. And it's like trying to also figure out during the documentary is how does this fit in the world?
Yeah.
Like, how does this become a thing? And you see that they work in the restaurant and they recommend wines to customers. And
So are you a wine drinker?
no,
Okay.
Are
Me
you
neither.
a wine drinker?
Me neither. I mean, not even a little bit.
Yeah,
It's-
Caleb and I are unfortunately not really alcohol eccentrics.
Yeah.
But we do understand the purpose of it and why people enjoy it. So I'm sure this movie is going to appeal to a lot of wine lovers out there. I just didn't think that this would actually be a whole thing that people could get into.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so surprising about it. And yes, okay, the lady was saying that there's full of white faces just everywhere you see in this international event. So she was looking to bring some culture.
There were 8 people. There were 8 people. The 4 Zimbabweans.
There was one even from South Africa, just one.
Well, it was the 4 Zimbabweans that were, of course, African, and then it was like the 4 Chinese people.
Oh, right.
So it's 8 people in total. The rest were all
Diversity, yeah.
the rest were all super duper white. This entire documentary is so close to home, and realizing that Joseph spoke about this a lot, but of course all of them touched on it. They came from Zimbabwe. They came here because life was so difficult in Zimbabwe. They needed to provide for their families. They crossed the border. Lots of them die.
By crocodiles.
They got shot by crocodiles. They get shot at by police. But they know.
He says it. He says that when he thinks back, it's like a horror movie playing in his head. And I think that sums it up.
And he finally gets to this place. And what's crazy is you don't realize you're walking down the street. You don't know how many people like this you've actually passed. You don't know how many people have had to go through something like this just to get to a place where they can provide for their family. Collision also touched on it a little bit.
It did.
Collision.
Yeah, you see the realness.
You see the realness of it, yes.
You see their home life. You see how, yes, some of them are still struggling. They still live in a struggling thing. They're still getting mugged in front of their wives. And it's a horrible thing to experience. You know, you feel little after you get mugged because, again, especially when you're around other people, you can't really defend because it might get them hurt.
Yeah.
And you have to take it. You have to take that pain. And that hurts a lot in the movie when you see that. And you're so right. And again, I look to that potential that Joseph, like, beautifully, I think, showcases in this movie. He has such a way with words too. But his story showcases that, and that anybody, dude, it doesn't matter where you're from. You can literally be in the worst place in your life. But if somebody takes a chance on you, if somebody gives even just an inkling of attention towards you, and it clicks. There's like a little click in your head, something, even if it's something weird like this that nobody would think to even go into. You know, and one of the things I loved was the honesty in this movie.
Yeah.
So all of the guys were honest. They were like, when they first had a sip of wine, it tasted horrible. They didn't
Which I can
like
relate
it.
to. I can relate to that.
The one guy said he got sick for like 2 days. That's how I felt when I had wine. They were honest about it, but it still got them into it eventually.
I think just my final point I want to bring up, it leans very heavily into what you've been talking about is potential. Potential is something we all have. You have potential. And what's crazy is Jordan Peterson actually talks about this. You can't measure potential. Potential isn't something, you never know when you've reached your potential. Potential isn't something you can hit. So everything you do, you can build upon. There's no limit to anything you can actually do because all potential is limitless. So just think about that as well. Like these guys were able to go from a place where nothing was possible, in inverted commas, from what they were expecting. I mean, they were living in the gardens. They were crawling under, fences, illegally crossing borders.
I'm surprised they could feature that. I mean,
yeah, I know. I was shocked actually as well. But then, at the end of the day, these guys are competing on an international level. That's impressive.
Yes, and it's also about being practical and realistic because even though they chased this weird, obscure dream that no one would think about, they were still realistic. They still had to provide for their family. They worked in that environment. They paid their dues, and because of that, they were able to achieve their dream.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. You don't have to go 120% an hour. You don't have to kill yourself or sweat and burn bridges. You can actually do it with patience. You can do it with dignity and with energy and build a stronger foundation growing up. I think that's important. And the last thing I would like to say is there's a scene here that's just so beautiful, and I'm sure you remember it. It's with the jacaranda trees, you know, that arc over a street. It's just this endless part, and it's got a slow-mo kid just running down there. And I think that's such a beautiful shot, and it just like encompasses the whole vision of the movie.
There were a ton of beautiful shots throughout the whole movie, I will say that. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, leave a like. Do not be afraid to subscribe to my channel. Then go across, check out Enrico. He's on Hater FM, but do you want to give more details about that? Because you're also on Twitter, and you're on Instagram, and you're on TikTok, and you're on Facebook, and he's on everything.
Yeah, that's hard to comprehend. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us here for this awesome review in this amazing theater. We had so much fun, and I'm just really excited for everybody to see this movie and experience Joseph's story. I think that's truly important. As well as the other guys, they had such amazing tales too. I think that's also important for people to enjoy. But thank you once again. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. This is so awesome, and have an awesome day.